I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello everyone, welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast. This is the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today I'm joined by Miss Jacintha Field. She is a family and child counselor and art therapist, as well as the founder of Happy Souls Kids, a global mental health platform helping children aged 5 to 12 regulate big feelings through storytelling, gamified tools, and the voices of athletes and role models they admire. I don't usually what I do is I read a full introduction, but her story is so impactful that if I read the introduction, it would give a lot of it away. So I'm going to
Yeah.
actually go right into introducing her to the show. So, Jacinta, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Noah. I'm in Australia, in Victoria at the moment. I'm on the surf coast, actually. I used to live here in Torquay. So, yeah, it's beautiful down here. Everyone calls me Jay. I had a private practice and the kids call me Jay because Jacinta's a little bit of a tongue twister. It's like Jacinta and Samantha put together. So you are welcome to call me Jay because it's just a little bit easier.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Was I able to say your name right, though, Jacinta?
It was actually perfect, Noah. Most people still call me Jacinta or Jacintha or all of these names, but you said it perfectly. So thank you. I honor you for that.
And they say Southerners are illiterate. Anyways, they say we can't read. Um, yeah, you know, the intro was different because when I was reading over your introduction, it's so storytelling, and it's one of those things where if I read the introduction, it'd give a lot of her life away. So I wanted to actually let her have a chance to read or share her story. So you talked about when I read your introduction and was reading your bio, a lot of your story begins during COVID. And a lot of people suffered COVID through or had dealt with COVID differently, but we all kind of followed and had some kind of story. So,
Mm.
can you share what happened in your life during COVID, um, particularly when your son started school?
Yeah, beautiful. It does start before then. About 20 years ago, I used to drink and party a lot, and I just wasn't where I wanted to be and it wasn't part of my soul. So I started seeing a meditation teacher. And that meditation teacher taught me to draw because I couldn't express how I was feeling. So she got me to use colors and she got me to draw everything that I was feeling inside. And that was kind of the process of my journey to be able to express how I was feeling. Because back then, as a kid, I was told to eat concrete, harden up, you'll be right, get over it. And that feelings were not to be felt. And so that was part of my journey that started 20 years ago. So while else was off partying, I was like at a meditation teacher, still partying on the weekend, of course, but that started the journey of me wanting to just step into a new version of myself. And then I studied IIN, so I studied integrative nutrition to just learn more about myself. And then in 2019, 2020, we separated. My son started school and it was COVID all at the same time, and he was not okay. He was throwing bins around the house, he was running up the street. his emotions were so well beyond anything I could support at the time. And even though I'd done breathwork meditation and I'd been on my own journey, the journey for him was just so different that he didn't relate to the way that I was able to heal myself. It just wasn't for a child. He was only 5 years old, so all of these tools, he needed more. So I started studying as much as I could to support my own child. And in that, we started drawing circles. So rather than saying, "How do you feel?" he would say, "Oh, I don't know, because I'm 5 years old." I'd get him to draw circles. And so I'd draw circles on a piece of paper and I'd say, "Could you put the face of how you're feeling inside the circle?" And that was how he started to express himself. And then we would go through further details of what that meant. Like, can you tell me why you feel sad? Can you tell me why you feel angry? Can you tell me why you feel disappointed? And that was the journey with him of him starting to express how he was feeling. And so during COVID, I saw that kids couldn't gain access to psychologists. There was a 6 to 12 month wait, which there still is today, Noah. It's horrific to know that there's kids all around the world that are struggling and there's not much that we can do for them. And so I started studying to become a family and child counsellor and art therapist. I've studied play therapy and I'm a kids yoga teacher. So during COVID, we sold our house, we moved to the Surf Coast. I had a private practice in Torquay for 4 years. And that's where I really learnt the pain points that children and parents were facing. And I call it a new language, like teaching parents and children a new language within the family dynamic. So we can show up for our children in a more solid, stable way that they understand, because the eat concrete, harden up doesn't work for kids anymore. No, it doesn't even work for us anymore. We want to be able to express what we're feeling so we can release it from our body. And so that was the start of my journey. And then I was in practice with one of the kids and I said, "Hey, do you want to do some meditation?" And he just like rolls his eyes at me like, "Whatever, lady." I said, "LeBron James meditates." And instantaneously he wanted to meditate straight away. So seeing the influence that I had with children, then realizing that their heroes have an even bigger influence was really big. So that was the birth of Happy Souls Kids, my practice, which is now turning into an app, and that was our journey. So yeah, that's a really long-winded journey of how I got to where I am. But that's the process of Happy Souls Kids and of my journey as Jacintha Field is it came from a pain point.
So, in your intro, you also had mentioned that you did have a alcohol problem, that you partied a good bit. So, what changed for you once you were able to stop drinking?
Yeah, I mean, I had a boyfriend when I was in high school, when I was 17 years old. I thought I was so cool at the time. And we were on and off for 15 years of my life, but he was abusive. And it's taken me to heal myself to realize that that behavior was abusive, in many different forms. And so I got introduced to the party world really early when I was really young. And I had a really good time. I've met some amazing people and I wouldn't change it. But it just wasn't the soul of who I wanted to be. Every Sunday morning, I'd wake up and get a KFC. I'd get a chicken fillet burger combo, extra salt on the chips, upsized with some water, just for balance. And that was kind of my every Sunday. And my soul just wanted to go for a run or a walk or go to the market, but I was hungover. And I think I had a fear of being lonely and alone. Because everyone around me was out partying, and I thought that I needed to do that as well. I was single at the time, and I didn't know that there was another way to live. And so when my son, like obviously when I was pregnant, I didn't drink at all. I started slowing down before I got pregnant. I was already on that path of saying, that's just not who I want to be. Like, I don't want to be this person. There's so much more to life that I know that I can achieve. And so during pregnancy, I didn't drink, and that was fantastic. I'd still go to nightclubs and I'd still go dancing because I love dancing and having fun and being social. I love connecting to humans, but I didn't drink. And I had a friend actually during the time that was like, "You are more fun than some of my drunk friends, and you're pregnant and sober." And that's when I realized that I didn't need to mask my problems with alcohol. I realized that I could be who I wanted to be and still have fun. And so during that process, I stopped drinking when I was pregnant, and then when my son was 18 months old, I had a few drinks Went out a few times before then, but then I said, yeah, go out and I was back. Like I was like, oh, let's go out and have fun. Let's go to a restaurant, and we were having lychee martinis and espresso martinis, and I was like, yeah, I'm back. My body completely rejected the alcohol. It was like, no, we're not going back here. I got so sick. I was like throwing up in an Uber on the way home, and my hangover lasted 5 days. And so the next day I just woke up and I said, no, I'm done. This is not the mother that I want to be. My son is 18 months old, and I don't want to be this mum. This is not who I see myself as for the rest of my life. So I quit. And most people knew me as like somebody that partied a lot. And so everyone was like, no, no, yeah, whatever. But I didn't. I've never drank since. I had a sip of wine once when I was out for dinner and I said, I just don't want it. And so that was the birth of me stepping into my own power of actually learning who I wanted to be in the world, not just fitting in with what everyone else was doing. And so I think that that's the first time really that I made a choice for myself. And, it can be a really lonely path when you stop drinking because I stopped drinking almost 10 years ago. And back then it wasn't socially acceptable. And I know you're in America, but in Australia, you get a badge of honor for being the drunkest person in the room. And, it's the culture that we have in Australia that, it's really fun to drink and get smashed and all of these things. And I just didn't want to be that person. So, yeah, I think it's when you make a choice for yourself, things change. And it takes courage and it takes a lot of guts to make that choice. And that's when you can learn to say no to people.
You kind of made a good point that about different cultures. I know a
Mm.
lot of moms would listen to this and say she went out and was at a bar and club partying while she was pregnant. Usually here in the States, and I don't know about anywhere else. I don't know if it's just an America thing, but usually when someone gets pregnant, which I have to give you credit for the drinking, no drinking during that time, because usually if they're not drinking, they're out partying, and if they're doing both, that's a big no no. But if you do like either or, it's still bad. We kind of have to put on this persona of, or women do, that when they're pregnant, all they can do is stay home and be sick. That if they saw a woman out at a bar pregnant, they would really be, she'd get a lot of hate because she's at a
Yeah,
bar, she's at a public
having
place
fun.
where there's loud music and have drinks going. Even though
Mm,
she's not drinking, her just being there, obviously pregnant, would cause so much hate. And when you said earlier in Australia, your friend was like, you're the most fun person here and you're not even drunk. America, I feel like if your friend was like, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be at home in bed. You're not supposed to be out. It just shows you how different cultures we have here, where
yeah.
it's real different. But
It certainly
so,
wasn't a regular thing that I was doing going to nightclubs, but if it was somebody's birthday or whatever, like always be in bed by 11 or 12 o'clock at night. Like it wasn't like sleep deprivation is so big when especially when
right.
you're pregnant. Like I would be exhausted the next day, even from going out to 11 o'clock at night, even 10 o'clock. People think it's often the alcohol that's the issue. And I actually challenge that and say, actually, it's sleep deprivation that's the issue a lot of the time, in addition to alcohol. Because I couldn't do that all the time. But if it was somebody's birthday or reason to go out, I could last a little bit longer than I normally would. Whereas now I'm in bed by 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm a different person. Even again, sleep
Mhm.
is so important to me that, if I go to bed after, say, 10:30, I'm exhausted the next day. So I guess it's just making sure that, and I think the judgment that comes with people in when you are pregnant, like absolutely you need to connect to your baby and it's so important, but going out and connecting with friends is just as important. Now, if that means that you're going to dinner or to a party that somebody's having, I think that it's okay to have fun. It's okay to have fun as long as you know your baby's safe and as long as your baby's like you're eating right and you're eating the right foods and you're getting enough sleep and you're getting enough rest. I think it's really important that it's okay for us to have fun as mums. Even now, when we are mothers, it's really important for us to have that element of self-love and to say, what lights me up? Like, I love dancing. And just because I quit drinking doesn't mean I should stop dancing. It means that I should still find other ways to have fun, like festivals. I love them. I love going to festivals. I go with my son now, who's 11, and we dance and have a lot of fun. And that's okay for mums to do that.
I've always told people you can have fun if you're with a group of friends and they're drunk, you're going to have twice as much fun with them if you're sober than you will drunk. The amount of times
Yeah.
my roommates and their friends would come to our place all the time and were drunk all the time, I was always sober because I had to be
Mm,
someone had to have the mindset to be able to watch everyone, and I was always that person. It was
mm,
so much fun. I've always told people if you're at a party, you're going to have fun whether you're drunk yourself or you're sober because the people around you are so their personalities change and it's such a fun time to where you don't even have to drink. The amount of times I've just been sober and I've just died laughing from what everyone else in the room's doing. It's something that because I'm not a huge drinker myself, I've gotten drunk one
mm,
time and
mm,
it was kind of one of those things of I don't know if I'd get drunk. It's like I don't think I'd get
mm,
drunk again, but I'll have like a drink here and there. But I kind of want to go back to your cause, the Happy Souls Kids. So you have a mission that by 2027 you would like to help 100,000 children.
mhm.
Where do you see the Happy Souls kids be? Where do you see it in 10 years? Or what's the ultimate goal?
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to stay in Australia. We want to go global. So we want it to be a global platform. Um, for Happy Souls kids because it's the things that I would teach children and parents in practice. We utilize bigger voices to be able to teach kids and parents the same lesson through authentic storytelling. So we would really love the platform to be a leader in mental health for children, where children are seen and valued and heard and respected. And so it's not that hierarchy of I'm the parent, you're the child. Let's give kids a voice. Let's give them control of their own life in different capacities. I think as a job as parents, like I'm a big advocate for the fact that we are here to guide our children, not to control them and tell them what to do. We're here to teach them the right ways. Like I will say to my son, "You've got this." Like he'll say, "Mummy, can you do it for me?" And I'll say, "Oh, mate, I know that you've got this." And I've done that ever since he was 2 or 3 years old with Lego. So now he has that confidence to be able to do it himself. Or if we're at a restaurant, I get him to order his own food, or even I'll get him to pay sometimes with my card. I'm teaching him to be independent. I'm teaching him to be able to have a voice and stand up for himself, because I think that that's really important. And I think it's important for lots of kids that we teach them that feelings are okay and how we're feeling is a reflection of how we're feeling inside ourselves, and all feelings are welcome, whether it's sad, angry, disappointed, frustrated. Every feeling has a place, and I think that that's really important for us as humans to understand and relate and accept, as adults, never mind to teach our children as well. So yeah, I've seen such big changes in the clients that I've had from when they came in to when they left. It's just such a huge leap. Seeing the difference in them and being able to stand up to their friends and knowing who their friendships are. And we do a friendship circle in practice. And all of these lessons that I wish I knew as a kid, we teach them. Can you imagine, Noah, that kids knew the lessons that we know now as adults, as children? Their life would be very different. And that's what we do at Happy
Hmm.
Souls Kids is teach them those lessons. So not to change their trajectory of their life and their path, but to help them with the tools to be able to show up for themselves and stand up for themselves.
For kids that deal with mental health struggles, and it breaks my heart that kids that are in elementary and middle school have to deal with mental health issues at such an early age. I was kind of early when I get it, but I've heard people that are 8, 9 years old that deal with depression and stuff, and at such an early age. How do you approach them by telling them, teaching them about mental health issues, but not be graphic about it? Because it's hard to, it would be hard for me if I had to teach a class to first graders about depression. I wouldn't know how to break it down for them to make it to where they would understand it, but without having to be very graphic and details about what the real side effects are. So when you're doing these coaching methods, what approach do you use to help bring awareness to these kids, but also not scare them?
Yeah, of course. We just talk about feelings that are age appropriate. So, for younger kids, we wouldn't necessarily use the word depression, whereas anxiety is socially acceptable now. Like you've got 70, 80-year-olds saying, I feel anxious, whereas 5, 10 years ago, that word didn't even exist. So it's just making sure that with children, we help them understand that whatever they're feeling is valid. And we do that through mirroring behavior. So, what I get parents to do is when they have a bad day at work, actually be super honest with your child and say, hey, I feel frustrated today, or I felt disappointed, or I had a contract that fell through and it made me feel really upset. And so we do this through mirroring behavior at home with parents and in practice where feelings become normalized. So they start to relate to the feeling that they've got inside. Because when we pick a child up from school, you'll say, hey, how was your day? And they'll go, good. And you'll be like, okay, where does this conversation go? And so it's just helping children understand that sometimes they're not going to have a good day at school and that's okay. But you are the safe space for them to come to be able to express how they're feeling. And after school, that isn't the time that they want to necessarily talk about it. It's actually before they
Right.
go to bed when parents are absolutely exhausted. And so it's just helping children understand and relate to the feelings that they have and normalizing them within the family dynamic, not just for kids. If you're not talking about your feelings, how do you expect a child to talk about theirs? As parents, we put this big shield on that, like, oh, no one can get me, nothing can get me. And it's not true. It's not, life isn't easy. It's a roller coaster of emotions. Some days you're up, some days you're down. And if you pretend to your kids that you're always brave and strong and courageous, then they think they need to be brave and strong and courageous. And that's where mental health comes into it because they go, well, something's wrong with me. I'm feeling sad. And sadness is a part of life. It's an emotion that we all feel at times. Grief is another one, depression, anxiety. They're all parts of who we feel as human beings. And I think that it's really important to recognize that for everybody to recognize that it's okay to feel. It's our feelings are coming up because they want to be released.
Unfortunately, at some point, not everyone's going to deal with depression, anxiety ever, but highly, highly, everyone's going to experience grief at some point in their life, whether they're very young or it happens to them later, way later in life. It's, I don't know how in Australia how it is for resources when kids are in school, but before you created the Happy Souls Kids Foundation, was were there any resources for kids in Australia that they could go to that could help them deal with their thoughts, or was it kind of very much shadow banned where it was really taboo and it was something that kids were just not really able to talk about?
I mean, it's definitely been around here. There's some beautiful parenting experts. It's definitely conversation that we have in Australia a lot now, but listening to parenting experts and being able to get one-on-one help is very different. And so I use a modality of play therapy, which is play is a child's language. If you sit down with a child and say, how are you feeling? Often they won't express that. But whereas if you use a sand tray or, I was known as the slime lady in practice, we use slime to be able to move through their body, or we're able to get them to choose what they want to do in the play therapy perspective. And sometimes that means singing karaoke. And so it's not so much the modality of play is how kids learn. And that's what we did with our app, is that we had conversations with lots of kids, like what would entice you to use this app? And it was gamification and using their language and their element of fun to be able to learn. So there's definitely things out there, but it doesn't mean that kids are listening. I think that you have to find a modality for every child that really relates to them, because some, statistically, boys love gaming more than girls do. And of course, that's just statistically how it is. And so it's finding the language that relates to that child, and parenting experts or psychologists, therapists, mental health workers are not always going to speak the language that kids like, whereas some do. So it's just helping find the right person. I would always say in practice, like, I want every part of you here, like, every part of you is welcome. And, but I wasn't the right person for every child and every family. I'm not always the right person, and another therapist isn't either. You have to find somebody who relates to that person on a really deep level and that speaks to the child in a way that they understand. And I think that that's really important, to find that person.
Absolutely. And the only reason why I had brought up how well mental health professions are for kids is the United States has a hard time that when it comes to mental health, it's always such a taboo subject.
Mm,
Kids are scared to open up because they think what they have is very odd to them and they feel like an outcast by everyone.
of
It's
course.
such a taboo thing. However, I did see a thing on the news, and I've seen a lot of like Fox News and the New York Post post something that starting next year, Illinois was going to be the first state to implement mandatory annual mental health screenings for students in grades th- for third grade students up to seniors in high school. That it would be starting next year, and that it was going to be the first screening to where all students are required to do a mental health screening to kind of check to see how well they are mentally and to see how well they are for behavioral wise. And I've seen a lot of mixed reviews from it.
Mm,
I think it's a good thing for a school to take involved because, as we've mentioned in this episode, that there are sadly kids that are in elementary and middle school that deal with mental health struggles at a very early age, and
yeah.
for them to do testing and for schools especially, I mean, this would be something I wish I would they would implement here in Alabama, and maybe in the future it might be able to grow to where more states will get it, but it's kind of a first step, and some parents are worried about privacy reasons. And I did see something that said that they were not going to share that with the school unless it was from parental consent. So I brought that up because it was actually the first thing I've seen of like kids actually getting help. It's from
Mm.
school and how school leaders were trying to help protect students from mental health and be able to be like, hey, this is what's going on. So I think it's a great thing.
I think there's one word that you used there that really triggers me, and it's the word mandatory. I think that having that mandatory for every kid is not great. I think that kids should be given choice whether they want to go down that path or not. Um, and yeah, I think that when we force children to do something that they don't want to do, they're not going to be authentic. And I think the intention there is really good. The intention to be able to support children in schools is wonderful, but I don't think it should be mandatory, because, yeah, every child doesn't necessarily want to share with somebody outside of their family dynamic if they don't feel safe, or they mightn't feel safe with that person, or they might be triggered by that person in some capacity. And I think Yeah, I think it's really important that kids feel safe and their safety's put first. That's another question I would ask in practice is, do you feel safe? In Australia, we have a social media ban that's been kicked in for under 16s. And again, I have a big problem with that because it's it's mandatory for all children, and I think we're just masking the
Mhm.
problem. We're trying to address bullying within schools and online cyberbullying, but the bullying's just going to move to somewhere else. We need to get the core of the reason of why that's happening. Like, what's the family dynamic like? Is there connections at home? All of these really big things that parents have got going on. I think it's really important that we get to the basis. It's shows like Adolescence. I don't know if you've seen Adolescence, Noah, but it's such a worldwide trigger for so many families because we don't know what our kids are doing online. And
Yeah.
that comes from kids going in their room, shutting the door, and being on the computer and going down the big web. Whereas with my child, I educate him, and rather than saying no, we'll have big discussions about why something is good for him or why it's not good for him. So when he's released into the world, he can make those informed decisions. And I think that's important for kids is to have the conversations and know um, that a parent is a safe space. So when they're younger, I will say to my child, like, thanks so much for being honest with me, no matter what he tells me, even if I'm as a parent, like dying inside because it's not great, but I will always be his safe space for him to come to. So when it's the big stuff, like going out and drinking or partying or whatever it is, like he will say, my mum will hold me. And as a parent, that's hard. It's really hard because you want to change their trajectory of their path, but you can't. And so I think that the word mandatory for me is very triggering. That in Australia, there's a lot of talk around the digital ID and just getting the control that comes around digital ID. It's masked as helping, but it's actually controlling us in Australia with our ID. So yeah, I think we need to look a little bit deeper into things that sound fantastic and work out if there's any underlying things that's going on before we make them mandatory for our children. And the first question is, do you feel safe with this person? And if they don't, we need to accept that and find somebody that aligns to them.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% that and when you had mentioned about the Australia implementing the ban on electronics for people 16 and younger, that actually made national news over here as well. I remember
Mm,
our World News had mentioned it as well that Australia had implemented this, and I'm kind of surprised that the states have not implemented this as well. Well, I say that, and in our state and some other states also put on a cell phone ban, where it's cell phones have now been completely banned from any school, and no kid can have any kind of electronic device on campus. I think they
mm,
can have it, but it has to be put up in a locker, or
yep.
it just has to stay home. And it's
Hmm.
caused such a huge division between my generation and
Yeah.
their parents' generation. All the parents around here think it's a great idea that they have the cell phone block band on because they need to be able to stay focused in school, and they need to be focused on their studies. They don't need to be on their phones 24/7.
Hmm.
But people that are around my age, and especially people that are still in public school, have used very much critiques on it, and
Mm.
I've been also on the critiques as well. And this is it's not been as a person that uses their phone all the time, but it's more of a safety reason.
Of course.
You know,
That's where you feel safe.
I don't know how big or how awful it is in Australia, but I know America has awful school shootings, and
Mm.
it's such a normal thing to say, but it's just normal here, and that's really sad to say. And I know a lot of countries. I had actually interviewed one person that was from Australia as well, and he said that the fact that you were just able to say school shooting like it was nothing. I said it's sad that it's normal, but
Scary.
unfortunately,
Mm.
it is something that happens here a lot. I said
And
it's gonna
that's
take.
because of mental health. It's the basis of mental health. Yeah.
And
Mm.
I've told people online, I said, and I've told my mom especially, I said, you know what? All these parents are going to be real supportive of this bill until a
Mm,
school shooting happens and their kid gets shot and their kid has no way of texting their mom or texting their family and say, hey, I've just gotten shot. I'm being taken to the hospital. When they could,
mm,
an easy solution of if a school was under an attack and they had to go on lockdown, a simple text to their parents could easily help get a lot of stress out. The fact that they're having to have their phones put away in a
mm,
locker to where they can't get in contact with students or where students can't get in contact with help on the outside as well as parents, everyone's going to be so against that. I'm just
yeah.
waiting for something like this to happen to where parents are going to finally see why this is an awful act to have passed and be
Mm,
mandatory for all students. You're going to be real supportive of it until something like that happens, and then you're not going to be as supportive of it. Because there have been times where I have weather events happen here, and the school forgets to send out a notification to my parents saying, "Oh, by the way, school's getting out early due
mm,
to a tornado outbreak, or we're having snow coming in." And then that way, then I have to go up to the office and call them, and they get mad that they didn't get notified. When a simple
mm,
text from me could have solved that problem.
mm.
So,
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, Noah. I mean, I don't think that I don't think that tech is the devil. I think it's that what we're doing on tech that's the devil. So why do we need to take away children's safety net? My son has an Apple Watch. We've separated co-parenting so he can call his dad or any of his family at any time. You know, he has that availability and control over that. And I think that he's had, you know, a space watch before that. So for the last probably 4 years, he's always had that communication. And I think that that's really important for kids to be able to have that availability to feel safe because, I mean, it breaks your little heart that you just said that it's normalized. Shootings are normalized in America. Like, that's just heartbreaking. We don't have that level here. I know of a lot of people that are moving back from America for many of those reasons, is that it doesn't feel safe. Although in Australia, we have a lot of thefts and there's a real issue with youth at the moment that isn't being spoken about. That children are raiding homes. I had a friend of mine that was had a machete pulled on him at a shop recently, and you know, it's the I want to go back to the basis with children. Like, what's the parent-child connection like? Like, are you accepting that child wholeheartedly for who they are? Are you connecting with them? Are you really like studies have shown that if you spend 20 minutes with a child wholeheartedly doing whatever they want to do, that creates that connection piece. Now, how often is that happening with teens? Everyone's working so hard because there's inflation and different things happening around the world, and you know, we're in a recession and parents are so busy trying to support their children and financially that they're forgetting to play with them. And that's what they need. And shows like Adolescence really show us that the connection piece with the parent child is so important. And it's devastating. I think that why can we not put limits around what children can do, but have a safety net to be able to call their families if they need to? Why are we taking tech away from children? I mean, it's very hard because The Anxious Generation is a really great book that shows that kids are obsessed with their phones, which they are, but it's because a lot of things are happening around the world is that they need that safety. So why can't we educate children as to why that they need the balance? My kid loves tech. He loves gaming. Like, it's a part of him. He has an engineering brain. He was putting batteries in toys when he was 2 years old. He loves the workings and ins and outs of how tech works. Like, he just has this brilliant mind. And if I took that away from him, I'm taking a piece of who he is away from him. So rather than doing that, we have boundaries around that and we make sure that he has balance. So he gets out in nature, he plays a lot of exercise, he eats really good food, and we have a really beautiful parent child connection between us that is really important for him. And I think that's what we need to get back to. We need to get back to the basis of our kids. Why are they acting like that? Like, where has it come from? Is there a lack in parenting? Is there a lack in are they feeling something at school that they're not willing to talk to you about because they're so scared that they'll get in trouble?
Mm.
Are they lying? Why are they lying? Like, where's that coming from? Have we not created a safe enough space for kids to be able to express how they're feeling? And yeah, I think what is a child's need to keep them safe? Maybe we don't give them tech, but give them a watch or something so they can have that connection piece with their family if they need to within school. So rather than taking it completely away, what are the boundaries and legalities that we can ensure that children are safe? I agree with you, Noah. It's such a big topic at the moment that we don't want to lose our children to technology, but we also want to ensure that they have a place of safety. So it's a really big conversation that's happening all around the world at the moment. Because I'm addicted to my phone. Absolutely, I am. I'm wholeheartedly addicted to my phone. I wish I wasn't, and I try really hard not to be. And my son and I have boundaries that I don't spend as much time working or on my phone on weekends. That's our time to connect. But there was a time there where I would just endlessly scroll for no reason because
Yeah.
I wasn't dealing with my own stuff. I can't mirror that behavior to my own child and not expect him to do it. Like
Right.
I can feel it when I pick up my phone sometimes. He's like, "Oh, I need to do Duolingo." Or, he wants the phone because I've got it. So I'm mirroring these really poor habits to my own child because of my own behavior. And so I'm becoming more and more aware of it to put my phone away when I'm with him or to do things together. Watch cat videos and dog videos, which he loves to watch, or, even YouTube. YouTube can be the devil. What they're doing on
Mhm.
YouTube, they're cutting off heads and they're doing all of this crazy stuff that parents aren't aware of. My
Yeah.
son had his school book week yesterday, and I was about to share a photo to Instagram, and I put it through ChatGPT, and I was like, "Hey, can you can you look at the geotagging around this?" Because I just was part of an article for a magazine here in Australia called Take Five, and so I've learned about geotagging and where we take photos. There's actual there's statistics and data on that photo that we are not aware of. So I asked ChatGPT to look where the photo was, and they got my school 100% accurate of where my son went to school. Like, that is so scary. And so we innocently share things on social media, which I believe that Instagram and Facebook and even TikTok take away the geotagging, but they could just change something in their T's and C's in the back end that we have no idea about. And so hackers all over the world and predators can know where our children are.
Yeah.
I believe predators are taking photos of kids and using them for porn. Like, what's happening in the world right now is really scary, and we need to keep our kids safe.
You made so many good points there, and
Mm,
it's so hard. And I have to give so much credit to parents that have kids that are younger than 12 because it's such a hard job to do because you're
mm,
trying to balance your own personal issues
yes.
as well as their personal issues, and you're also trying to make
Mm,
it to where they can still have a childhood. But it's so hard when there's all kinds of things going on in the world, and it's all these dangerous things going on with AI being a problem as well as hackers and threats going towards children. It's I can and I really hope in the future it gets better, but I just it's one of those things where I just don't think it's gonna get any better, and that is so sad because it's my childhood growing up was I didn't have a lot of my electronics until I was probably in middle school or maybe when I was in fourth grade.
mm,
I didn't get introduced to my own electronics until I was pretty far into school. It was pretty a few
mm,
years after I'd started school, and we'd start slow. It was maybe a gaming system that then kind of went up to a laptop, an iPad, and a phone, and it just kind of goes up. And but I still had like a normal childhood. I would always watch Nickelodeon and Disney growing up. I would always remember going
Mm.
outside and playing on my swing set on the trampoline. I remember swimming during the summer. And I remember doing a lot of fun stuff just around the house, like looking at books with my parents and was just like playing with toys and all this stuff. So I had like the childhood that I think a lot of kids still wish that they had.
Mm.
Um, it's such
Because you
a
had another connection with your family.
I had a good connection with them, and that is something that you had brought up that if like a parenting does play a factor here, especially, yes, it plays a
Mm.
huge factor because you have kids that get like 4-year-olds that have phones. They have
Yeah,
thousands of dollars worth of clothes, jewelry, all this stuff that parent like people that are worth millions now don't have.
yeah,
There's 4-year-olds on the street. You walk by and here they are with fancy cologne, perfume on. They have very high professional makeup on, jewelry, and it's like they're 4 years old. And
yeah.
I know that some parents do said, well, I want them to have a better life than I did growing up. And I said, there's nothing wrong with that. That if you, I understand that parents that grew up with not much, that they don't want their same child to go through it, but you don't have to spend all the thousands of dollars for that.
Mm.
If you had like a strict household where you had to go to bed at 7 p.m. every night, make it to where your
Mm.
child goes to bed at 9 or 10 p.m. Or if there's like, if you were only strict to only eating certain things, make it to where your kid doesn't have to do that. I mean, there's
Mm.
subtle things like that instead of, oh, well, I went to school in raggedy jeans and busted shoes. You don't have to go and say, okay, you're going to wear the fanciest pants and fanciest shoes that cost $500 to just be able to have so that they don't go through it. Yeah,
Mm.
it's such a huge thing, but
It's
kind of
one of
the
those things, Noah, that, like you'll buy a kid a present and they'll play with the box. And, that's kids need the simplest of things. And we think that they need all this big stuff, but they don't.
right.
They want you. They want the parent. They want the family. They want the connection time. And it doesn't, you can buy them whatever you like, but nothing replaces that connection time that you have with your children.
Absolutely, and it's one thing that I hope it gets better, but you know, I know a lot of parents that are becoming new parents now. There's this generation's now having to deal with a lot of stuff, and they're have newborns or stuff. So, what advice do you have for new parents and for future parents
Mm.
that you've learned from your own journey of how they can have a good relationship with them, but also have let them have freedom and that they can still be a kid but be able to introduce these tough topics. Like, what's some good advice that you have for new parents?
Yeah, of course. I mean, being a parent is tough. It's not an easy process, and um, it's not as if you're given a rule book to say, "Here you go. Here's the genes of your child. This is how to parent them." Every child is different. You might have three children, and they're so different. They need to be parented in three separate ways. So the first thing is making sure that you trust your kids. They are right a lot of the time in what they're saying. They have these inhibitions and things that as you get older, get released. So just know that listening to your children is so important, regardless of the age. Letting them feel whatever they need to feel is really important as well, especially as toddlers, that toddler age, which we find really challenging. Letting them feel and teaching them that they will release things out of their body and trusting that they know what they need a lot of the time. Having more compassion and empathy. I think that we need to do a lot of work on ourselves when we have children because a lot of the habits and beliefs and patterns that we've learned through our own parenting journey, through our own parents, need to be changed. So, allowing yourselves time and space to do the work, to show up for your kids in different way, I think is really, really important. And what I mean by that is working out your children are going to trigger you. They just are. That they're here to trigger you. They're here to show you parts of yourself that need to be healed. And when you can accept that and when you can love that part of them and accept it and say, whoa, they're teaching me so much, it makes the journey of parenting so much more beautiful because parents will bring their kids into Happy Souls Kids and say they're broken. And often it's the parent child connection that's broken and we need to build that back up again. And it's it's relating to our children in a way that they understand and that they accept. Like my child hates yelling, like hates it. Like there used to be a lot of yelling when I was in my relationship, and so he's very triggered by that and other things that have happened in his life. And so speaking to our children really calmly, knowing that if if there's a lot of yelling and raised voices in the house, you're teaching them about raised voices. So staying as calm as you possibly can with kids is really important. They feed off your calm.
Hmm.
Showing children and parents and just getting parents to have fun. Like often we lose ourselves when we become a parent, and making sure that you don't lose yourself. You still have an element of you that's there. So it could be roller skating, skateboarding, it could be knitting, it could be having a cup of tea in nature, like whatever you need to do to be able to show yourself that you can still be the person that you are, still while having a child. You don't have to always be about the kid. You have to make sure that your cup is filled up. And that could be a small walk for you do for yourself. That could be going to the gym. Whatever it might be is so important for parents to be able to have their cup filled up. Otherwise, there's a lot of resentment that happens. There, you're living for your children, you're living for the washing, you're living for the food, and you don't have time and space to be able to really have that connection to self, and that's really important. So when it comes to new parents, my biggest advice is also to trust yourself. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry will tell you how to parent your child, but you know best. You know best. So just because Sally next door parented their child in a particular way doesn't mean that that's going to work for your child.
Right.
If something feels really off for you, just trust that. If your child's going to school and they're coming home and their behavior's changed, just look into why that's happening. Be the biggest advocate that you possibly can be for your own child because nobody else is going to. And often a child might come home and be really upset about something, and you want to listen to that. Like listen to what your child is saying and listen to the behavior, because there might be somebody at school, at childcare, etc., that is making them feel really uncomfortable, and that's what we really need to listen into. Is how a child feels.
Well, I think this is such a great cause for you, and I kind of wanted to give you another chance to promote Happy Souls Kids. I actually pulled up the website, and I've got to say the website I love. I mean, it
Mm.
uses such great colors on there, and you click on it, you just automatically feel happy. So, if parents want to check this foundation out and want to do courses as well, kind of do like a step-by-step thing about what parents can expect when they sign their kid up to be part of Happy Souls Kids and what all Happy Souls Kids provides, and as well as also share social media platforms as well.
Yeah, beautiful. So we're in our beta testing phase, and what that means is that we've got a lot of parents, psychologists, mental health workers, families using the platform at the moment, giving us feedback saying, we like this, we don't like this. And we want people to be able to come on and we want them to be part of the journey and help us to be able to develop something that children and parents do together. Happy Souls Kids isn't about giving your child a phone and saying, here, go do Happy Souls Kids. There's so many lessons for parents to learn on there just as much as kids. So we want them to do it together. And so the website's changing actually, Noah. So thanks for saying that. But yeah, we've done our branding, so we're rebranding it really soon. Just send me an email at hello@happysouls with an S and kids with an S.com if you'd like to be one of our beta testers and be part of the process, because we would love your feedback. We don't know everything when it comes to building apps, but we know that we talk to our customers and have that feedback element. to be able to help them connect in together. And so our social media is Happy Souls Kids. I've got TikTok as well, Happy Souls Kids. We've just launched very slowly. We're about to launch our first athlete, which I'm sure when this goes live, we might have launched a couple by then. And we would love to know who would inspire your children as well. Like send me a message on Instagram. My personal one is Jacintha, Jacinthafield. I've got Instagram and Facebook as well as TikTok and LinkedIn. So send me a message and let me know the people that you know that are really inspirational and heroes for your children. And sometimes that's YouTubers, you know, it's not just your athletes, it's kids that people admire. And if there's any connections that you have, we would love to be connected to that. And yeah, this platform is about making what I did in private practice and many of the therapists and mental health workers available to kids to be able to learn in a really fun way. Think about Duolingo. It's like Duolingo Masterclass and Calm app all put together. That's what we're building, and it's something we're really proud of. And it's got to constantly build, and we've still got bugs and all of these things in our beta testing phases. And we would love you to be part of it. We want to build this with a community of people that can give us that love and support.
Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on here and sharing me your story, and sharing this organization. What I'll do, especially for this one, since it's different, I will put the Happy Souls Kids website. I will put in the description box, but of
Beautiful.
course, she had just said that it's changing. So I'll also put her personal social media as well as the social media accounts for Happy Souls Kids in the description box. And then that way you can have updates on both accounts from personally and um, for the foundation wise social media accounts as well. So in case there are changes, you'll be able to get notified. But I'll put the website and the both personal and business social media links down there below as well so that you can have well, and I'll also put your email, the hello at the souls kid happy souls kids dot com as well.
Beautiful,
I'll put
Noah.
that in there, and so that if people have questions about because I know that you wanted to hopefully go overseas to America, so hopefully I'll put that in there so in case people from other countries, if they
Yeah,
hear this and
beautiful.
are interested in it, they'll have an email for to you, and that they can send an email to you asking questions about maybe a estimated time about when the program would be appropriate for or be available in their country. But Cynthia, thank you so much. I've appreciated this interview, and I think a lot of parents are going to really click with this, and I hope that a lot of parents that are maybe parents that they've had kids for a long time or new parents will hear this and have some tools and guidelines to help their kid and have better outlines and guidelines for them. So I appreciate you so much for joining me and
And
telling me
we
your
appreciate
story.
you, Noah. Thank you for creating these space for these conversations. You know, it takes courage to start a podcast, and I just want to say I appreciate you too, and thank you for having people like myself on to tell their story. And yeah, it's been wonderful. You're a great interviewer.
Well, thank you, and to all my listeners, appreciate you all for listening and tuning in to this week's episode. You can catch me on my social media, Instagram and TikTok, Sleep Live Venom Podcast, on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. It is Noah's podcast. On there, I just post updates about the podcast as well, some behind the scenes stuff and updates about when episodes are coming out. So feel free to check those out just for updates on the show. You can also listen to Leaf of It on wherever you get your podcast from. I'm available on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. I mean, it's basically wherever podcasts are. It's available on there as well. So feel free to go check it out and follow it and keep tabs on anything. But to all my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.